terrorism around the world, and it's time for them to be accountable for that and pay the price.
The longer we go without finding Miley's body, the more hopeful we are that she's alive somewhere.
Judge Ellis at it again, lashing out at one of Mueller's prosecutors for going on and on about Manafort's connections to Ukrainian politicians that have nothing to do with the president.
Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens were brutally harassed by far-left protesters. They were having breakfast at a Philadelphia coffee shop.
We don't want to play the victim card here. That's what the left does all the time.
This is Maxine Waters America.
Anti-Trump comedian Rosie O'Donnell leads a musical protest right outside the White House.
Can you feel a brand new day? Tonight, but we're just getting warmed up, just getting started, already fired up. Yeah, this party.
I don't know why I always thought this was Luke Bryan. Man, was I mistaken.
I guess so.
Yeah, Jason Aldean.
That's the great thing about this show. When we open up, whoever's singing, we put their name up in the corner.
Right. So you can download the music, and I often do that.
Right.
All right, let's get the day off started because the president is already up and tweeting this morning.
He is indeed, Ainsley. It's a Fox News alert, and we're going to be talking about this. The president tweeted just about 20 minutes ago. The Iran sanctions have officially been cast as of midnight. These are the most biting sanctions ever imposed, and in November, they ratchet up to yet another level. Anyone doing business with Iran will not be doing business with the United States of America. I am asking for world peace and nothing less.
Well, that's interesting because the European Union saying, wait a second, we're going to keep this deal intact. But are they? Sooner or later, it's going to be, you can decide, I want to invest in Iran or I want to do business with America. You make the call.
The first set of economic sanctions took effect at midnight and targets the automotive sector, the purchase of commercial planes and metals. And then there's another one, the second round, as he was saying, on November 4th.
So when that tweet went out, we quickly we woke up Griff. He was in a sound sleep.
20 minutes ago.
Yeah, 20 minutes ago. And Griff got dressed. Griff, can you tell us what these sanctions mean?
It means, good morning, guys, that they are feeling the sting in Tehran this morning because reinstating these sanctions effectively ends the Obama-era Iran deal. And the president now is also saying he's open to negotiations. Well, this was President Rouhani's reaction.
What's the meaning of negotiations when you impose sanctions at the same time? It's like someone pulling a knife to stab a rival or an enemy in the arm, while at the same time claiming we should be talking and negotiating.
Rouhani also said he's willing to meet with the president without preconditions as long as he gets an apology and compensation. As you note, European leaders broadly opposed the action as the president urged all allies to join his maximum pressure campaign. Now, officials with the administration say this is not intended to bring about regime change, but rather regime behavior. Senator Lindsey Graham says it's a good start.
Donald Trump is telling the world business community and the Europeans, you cannot do business with this murderous regime and have access to U.S. markets. Over time, this will work. Stay tough, President Trump. You're on the right track.
But across the aisle, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi blasting the move, calling it counterproductive, saying it diminishes America's international credibility, erodes our relationships with our NATO and EU allies, and sets back the path toward a more stable region and peaceful non-nuclear future. These first sanctions, guys, targets precious metals in the auto sector. Another round, as noted by the president, will go into effect in November. That will target the oil sector and central bank. So this is just getting started.
It did at midnight. All right, Griff, thank you very much. Okay, so in May, the president took us out of the Iran nuke deal. And now, this morning, the remaining parties to the Iran deal, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and the EU have all announced that they will continue to work to keep the financial channels with Iran open. And they also hope to keep the export and import of oil and gas. However, as Brian pointed out a little while ago, eventually they're going to have to choose. You want to stand with the Iranians or you want to stand with the United States of America? So right now, what those people who are trying to make that choice are looking for, they're looking for loopholes.
This is a different administration. The past administration was giving them money, billions of dollars. A lot of that money was used to support terrorist organizations. And Mike Huckabee talks about the difference in this administration and how dangerous the Iranian leader is.
They're a rogue regime. They've killed Americans. They've kidnapped Americans. They've sponsored terrorism around the world. And it's time for them to be accountable for that and pay the price. Unless the regime is changed, the behavior won't change. But the proper avenue to see that change is not for the U.S. to go in and intervene and overthrow that government. It's for the people to do it. And they almost did it in 2009. The Green Movement was an uprising, and they were looking for just a little bit of encouragement from the United States. And President Obama was absolutely stone cold silent, didn't say a word as 20-year-old women were bleeding in the street from gunshot wounds to the head. That's why this regime is emboldened.
Well, there's a couple of things, too. As Griff mentioned, in November, it gets worse because we start going on their main source of income. We go after their oil. Let's say the output is going to be cut in half. We're going to make it up between Russia, Saudi Arabia, and us. We're going to keep the market flooded so the price of gas stays low. But what's happening as late as over the weekend, these uprisings are taking place not because of America, not because of an organization. These are farmers. These are shopkeepers. These are taxi drivers are saying we hate the life that we have. And they're beginning to say that we're no longer blaming the U.S., the great Satan. They're not buying it. They're beginning to blame their own government. And as they scramble to get gold on the market and buy up their currency, I understand as late as last week, they tried to take $350 million out of their bank in Hamburg, Germany. And the Central Bank of Germany said, no, we're not allowing that. These are the types of things to squeeze the regime to hold back on their cash that would really start hindering them from doing some of the antics that they're doing in Syria with Hezbollah and with Hamas.
Yes. Well, it's squeezing the whole country. The people are desperate. The real has plummeted 50% since the month of January. So the people, if they're sick of it, they'll demand a regime change. Ultimately, that, as Mike Huckabee says, while not the official goal of the United States, that would
Lindsey
affect
Graham
change.
he laid it all out. He was talking about how they support terrorism, how they capture Americans, how they are dismembering Syria. He talked about how they put on their missiles death to Israel. They chant death to America.
Right. And Lindsey Graham spent the weekend golfing with the president, so you know his mindset is the president's mindset.
All right. So that went into effect at midnight. Now let's talk a little bit about today. The president of the United States wants Ron Vitiello to head up ICE.
Good move.
Yeah, absolutely. He was with us last week. Tom Homan, of course, retired after many decades. Mr. Vitiello is a lifelong Border Patrol agent. He started in the Laredo sector of Texas. And as he told us the other day, if he continues to work at ICE, ultimately his goal is to enforce the laws of the United States as dictated by Congress.
Well, Antonio Sabato Jr. was talking about it and talking about how he supports the wall. He's an immigrant. He's originally from Italy. He's now running for a congressional seat. You know him as the actor. He's been on our show a lot, but he's running against a Democrat, Julia Brownlee. She's the incumbent, but he says we need to put America first. We need to put Americans first. Listen to this.
I came to the United States as a legal immigrant, and I'm proud of that. And I believe that this is the right time to build a nice wall. With human trafficking, drug trafficking, and so much more coming to our country. Walls do work, and America needs one. More than ever, we need a wall. A big wall with a nice open door. Come here legally. We need to put America and Americans first.
He also said that he has been, because he is a conservative out in Hollywood, he has been viciously attacked. He's lost a lot of work because he is a conservative, but nonetheless, he's got to stand up for what he believes. And he says, I'm an immigrant, but I think we need the president's wall.
One of the founding mothers of the anti-Trump movement is Rosie O'Donnell. She is one of the first people to not like the president when he was just hosting The Apprentice. And she said he'd never win to become president. And now she has all these theories that the president's crowds and popularity is because of the Russians. And she went out and said one of the reasons he gets big crowds is because he pays them. Look at the ads. He pays them like we do extras in movies.
So Rosie,
that's a lot of money.
Rosie yesterday loaded up a bus and took 60 Broadway performers down to the White House. There you can see right there, Lafayette Square across from the White House. And essentially they wanted to raise their voices against the president of the United States as depicted by that cartoon character right there. Here's the problem. The president is about 250 miles away in Bedminster, New Jersey, so he missed the show.
He's closer to the actual Broadway performances here in New York than he is there.
She sang to the butlers.
They were singing in protest, but the songs were, they were beautiful songs.
Listen to them.
They're Broadway songs. Listen.
if you like the president, you got to say this is pretty good entertainment. Normally, you got to pay $500 for a Broadway ticket like that.
You can just go down there and stand in front of the White House. You get to see the White House. You get to learn about Washington, and you get to Broadway production.
You really love it.
I really love it. They sang Les Mis. They sang from The Wiz. They sang as you heard from The Sound of Music.
It's hard to rhyme treason.
The songs are beautiful, but nonetheless, they were there to protest the president, and Rosie O'Donnell doesn't like him.
Should not be president, and I don't believe that he's a legitimate president. What he does is denigrate the most vulnerable. I think most of America wants him to be out.
You believe the actual outcome was rigged, or just that there were efforts?
Yes. No, I do believe it was rigged. This man is like a joke. I believe that Trump is loathed in America, that people are embarrassed and ashamed of who he is, and that come Election Day, we're going to stand up at the polls and let him know.
You could go back to 2016 when she said there's no way he'll ever win. Okay, so she was on to say that the reason why his popularity is going up, I guess she indicates, are the Russians thing. So I guess the Russians are upping his popularity. People that voted for him are horrible people. And she can't get over it.
She can't, because he is president. What do you think about their road show yesterday? Let us know, friends at foxnews.com, or you could tweet us, or we're on Facebook.
Or sing us a little song. And I love Broadway. Jillian, what did you think of that?
I thought that they were very talented, a lot more than me. I know. All right, let's get you caught up on the news that we're following, starting with the search for Molly Tibbetts. And her family is not losing hope in the search for their missing daughter. Her father, Rob, telling Fox News new information of where he thinks she could be.
It's totally speculation on my part, but I think that Molly is with someone that she knows, that is in over their head. The longer we go without finding Molly's body, the more hopeful we are that she's alive somewhere.
The 20-year-old disappeared on July 18th after going for a jog. Investigators haven't named any suspects. The reward for information leading to Molly is now $277,000. 200 brave soldiers are set to join the fight against California's largest wildfire ever. The Army deploying active duty troops to battle 17 major blazes across the state. The Mendocino Complex fire in Northern California is now the largest in California history. Some 14,000 firefighters are battling fires across the state right now. The Army engineers are expected on the ground early next week. Let's look at your headlines, and I'll send it back to you. Just devastating out there.
Yes, it is.
It's terrible.
People work so hard to build your home and your family and your life, and one swoop.
They need some rain, and
Yeah,
they need
do.
cooler temperatures. All right, Jillian, thank you very much. New York State wants to give 3 months paid leave to workers mourning a loved one. Our next guest says if that happens, if it's signed by the governor, his business will not survive.
Plus, the MS-13 gang member, his nickname is The Reaper. He's accused of ordering murders of up and down the East Coast. And now he says life in jail is just too hard. He wants a better life in jail. My heart goes out to him.
Well, it's two hearts, one dream. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I asked
Listen to this. A New York State bill now awaiting Governor Cuomo's signature would give employees in New York State 3 months paid bereavement to mourn a loved one. This addition to the state's existing paid family leave law now has businesses concerned that it would create unnecessary strain and possibly a staffing crisis. Here to weigh in is Butch Yamali. He's the owner of the Dover Group, which is based here in New York City. Butch, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Do many people know that this is sitting on the governor's desk?
I don't know anyone that knows it, other than I found out yesterday. We were looking through it. It's unbelievable law.
Well, here's what it would entail, the bereavement bill. 3 months paid leave. Workers would collect 50 to 67% of their average weekly wage. It would cover the spouse, domestic partner, child, in-law, grandparent, or grandchild. So how would this impact your business, Butch?
My business is we're a large company for catering and restaurants in New York, and we also primarily have a big summertime business. So from Memorial Day to Labor Day, a 13-week period, if someone loses someone, they're pretty much off the entire summer or the entire period. So
do you replace them?
How could you replace them? Just replace someone for the summer and have to bring them back to let somebody else off? I mean, that's not fair to the new worker you hire.
Yeah, right now with your business, if somebody has a loved one who dies in their family, what do you give them?
Well, it's not the same for everybody. It's not one size fits all, but for the most part, 3 to 4 days if they need it. If they want a little bit more because something really bothered them or a serious situation, we always work with the employee. Most of them want to get back to work, get their head back in the game, and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. You have worked your whole life to build this business, and now you're looking at this, and it has the potential to derail you, you say.
Yeah, it's going to derail us because I always like to expand. I've grown from one single ice cream truck to a major company, and it's scary now because with all these new rules and regulations, what's next? Are we going to pay people's rent? I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
You mean, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
Ultimately, should the government be in this particular part of this particular issue?
No. Government should not get involved with this. This is not a simple situation. This is a very difficult thing, and you have religion involved. You have people's, mindset involved. There's a lot of different things that factor over here, and the level of someone's employee. Is it a manager? Is it a simple worker? There's a lot of factors here. They're just stepping in and saying you have to do this. That's not right.
Okay, so if the governor signs it, you got to give somebody 3 months off paid.
And you know what's scary too? A lot of times.
Will you go out of business?
It's gonna, I don't know if I'll go out of business, but it'll certainly hurt, and it'll certainly cause me to cut back on some staff. It'll cause me to probably raise prices so I can cover this double payroll. I mean, it's not right.
Let's see what the governor does. All right. Butch, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So what do you think about that? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, the video is unbelievable. A car slams into a tow truck on a highway, sending, debris flying. But wait until you hear what happened next. Plus, turning around our inner cities one brick at a time. Our next guest already did that in Detroit. Now he's going national. He's going to show it how it works. Coming up next.
Hold now.
It is 6:24 right now here in New York City. Here's some quick headlines on this Tuesday morning. The TSA is scrapping the idea to end security screenings at more than 100 airports. According to CBS, the proposal reported last week was never under serious consideration. The idea outraging Congress and security experts who argue the move would open the door for a potential terror attack. And the Pentagon bans personnel from using fitness trackers and smartphones with geolocation tracking. The ban coming after it was revealed that Strava, a fitness tracking app, revealed the locations of security forces around the world. Service members will be responsible for making sure their location features are turned off of their Fitbits and other devices. All right, Brian Ainsley.
All right, 25 minutes after the hour, Detroit is one of America's largest cities, and it has one of the highest crime rates to match. In the 2010 census, the data shows that a quarter of the homes in just one Detroit neighborhood were vacant, and residents say it's the same throughout the city.
Now, a real estate developer is aiming to fix that problem with a nonprofit. It is called Blight Authority, and he started it in Detroit, but is ready to take that concept now nationwide. Here to explain the concept is Bill Pulte, the CEO of Pulte Capital and the Blight Authority Project. We also have Reverend Larry Simmons. He is the pastor of Baber Memorial AME Church in Detroit. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Tell us about this program. It sounds wonderful.
Sure. So what we're doing is we're going into inner cities, urban communities, partnering with people like Reverend Simmons, going to them saying, hey, community, we can bring big equipment, big machines in. We can knock down these abandoned buildings, these dilapidated, dangerous buildings, frankly, where some kids get raped and dragged into. I mean, this is really what's happening in these neighborhoods. We knock down the buildings. We clear the land, we make it safe, we stop the gunshots, we stop the murders, and we make the area beautiful.
And we understand, Reverend, that you've knocked out over $500,000 it took to wipe out about 12 blocks. How do wrecking things help build things?
Well, you have to clear away, I call it the clean table syndrome. When you got a table at home, it's got a bunch of junk on it, you got to clear it off. Once you get it cleared, people don't put stuff there anymore because they see it's a clean table. And so we clear the area so that future developers will see the beauty, which is what you'll find in Brightmoor. This is the only area of Detroit that has rolling hills. We call it the Irish Hills of Detroit in the neighborhood. But that was made evident once this non-structural blight was cleared out, then you could see the beauty of this landscape.
Bill, how'd you come up with this idea?
You know, I had been in the construction business. My family has been, in particular my father. He used to make things that were beautiful. And I said to myself, driving down the city of Detroit, I said, we can knock down these buildings. And you go to Baltimore, there's over 5,000 structures there that are abandoned. You go to Philadelphia, Chicago, right? So we can take this model across the United States. And because of our unique background, I think that we can go ahead and do that.
And I guess you're not really getting much government support, but you already do. This is the private sector. You doing this. So by knocking things out in Detroit, you think things are going to get better. You want to move on.
And they have gotten better.
And also, you're talking about moving on to Chicago?
We're thinking about Chicago. Baltimore's another area. We're looking at Philadelphia. Frankly, I get most of the big city urban mayors calling me saying, hey, Pulte, will you come and help us knock down these buildings? I mean, this is a big problem in the United States that people don't know about. And actually, it causes a lot of other problems, whether it be crime or prostitution or drug activity. So we're knocking it out.
Yeah, Reverend, what have you seen in your neighborhoods as far as where what's happening in these buildings? You mentioned rape and people being pulled into them.
There were, in the area that Bill's talking about, we call it the North 14, because 14 square blocks, about 500 parcels. There were 2 drug houses that were operating because the overgrowth was so tall they could hide. Once this was cleared out and it became evident what was going on, drug houses gone. It's funny, I said the economics of drugs obviously means that customers don't want to be seen. Once you could see them, they left.
And lastly,
go ahead.
Bill, you got to start building again too. Am I right?
Yes.
I mean, it's about time. You want to build, but you don't want to price people out of these neighborhoods.
Well, we say step 1 is getting rid of everything and making it clear so step 2 and 3 can happen. And Scott Adams and I launched a website today, blightauthority.com/ideas. We're asking people for urban ideas to put in their ideas. We'll figure out what step 2 and 3 are, Brian. But frankly, unless we solve step 1, we're never going to get the inner cities back on their feet.
And as far as funding this, that was my when I was reading about your story, I thought, who's paying for all of this? Is it your family? Is it
mostly myself and my family, but frankly, we're going to be opening it up to other families. The support we've gotten, this model is totally unique in the United States, and we think we could take it across the nation.
And Ben Carson's working with you guys?
I think he's very supportive of what we're doing. We've gotten tremendous support. And by the way, that's one of the beautiful things here is we're non-political. I mean, we're working together, black, white, Hispanic, Asian. We're bringing everybody together, Republicans and Democrats.
It's that partnership, the public-private partnership with communities, Skillman Foundation, Fisher Foundation, DTE, our energy corporation, all getting aligned to make something happen. That's the future. That's where it's going to get changed. Government has a part, but it's the community that takes the lead.
Right. Any message to the administration?
I would say, look at what we did and copy it all over America.
Got it. Bill Pulte, thanks so much. Reverend Larry Simmons, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the new Blight Authority Ideas website is up and running, as you just heard. Go to foxandfriends.com to find out more. Thanks, guys. Meanwhile,
what would you do if you ran into Keith Urban outside of a convenience store? You got to hear the story behind that photo right there. She thought he was homeless.
That's what these musicians are like. And so much for brotherly love. Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk wanted to have breakfast. They get targeted by Antifa in Philadelphia. But they're not backing down. Candace and Charlie live in studio, walk in our direction.
Love somebody like you. And I'm
Wow. Conservatives under attack. You have Candace Owens, you're watching her there from yesterday, and Charlie Kirk. They were both ambushed because they were having breakfast in Philadelphia. That's it.
Candace Owens, Communications Director of Turning Point USA, and Charlie Kirk, Founder and President of Turning Point USA, to tell us about what happened yesterday about this time at a restaurant in City Center, Philly, called Green Eggs Cafe. So you're there because you're going to have a meeting together to talk to your graphics team and whatnot, and you live in Philly, and then one of you realized, hey, look over there, somebody's wearing Antifa gear.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so we kind of progressed through breakfast, having fun, just going through, Turning Point USA related, business items. And then we look out the window about 30 minutes later and a mob starts to form.
So the people inside had alerted people outside, they're in here.
They sent out some sort of a bat signal, which said, we have found the conservatives, come and harass them. And that's exactly what they did. They descended very quickly. They mobilized. It lets us know that this is a well-funded effort. This was at 8 a.m. Monday morning, which means it's likely that this is their job. And it was quite terrifying how quickly they were able to assemble that group. And
they blew a whistle, didn't they?
That's right. They were blowing whistles, bullhorns.
This close to my face and my ear. And it felt to me reminiscent of the civil rights era, because the entire police force is black. There was only one white police officer. The entire Antifa group is white. And they were screaming at us, calling us race traitors, telling the police officers that they were racist, all black and Hispanic.
And you were a white supremacist?
And I was a white supremacist, and they said, you're a race traitor. Whose race are we betraying? White liberals? Is that who we've betrayed because we don't think like them, because we refuse to subscribe to political orthodoxy?
Were you nervous? Did you fear for your safety?
Well, look, we were shocked. And, Candace and I turned to Candace. I said, look, let's stand our ground for a couple minutes here and just kind of see what this is all about. And the police did an unbelievable job, and we really have to. What they go through and the harassment. Here's these, these protesters, and that's probably a generous word to describe them, harassing them, the police nonstop. And we just kind of stood there. Next thing I know, I'm having water thrown at me, eggs thrown at me. We did not retaliate. We never will. That's not the right way to handle situations like this. And look, we don't want to play the victim card. That's a very important thing. But we do want to warn the American people that this is the new face of the Democrat Party.
And Candace, you actually were yelling. You were yelling, we love the police.
I love the police because it was jarring to me to see this, the illustration of black men standing peacefully. These police officers were black, and they were standing peacefully, silently, as they were being shouted at by white liberals. So it really, I felt a necessity to defend them and say, we love you guys. We love the police. Right. Thank you for protecting us.
They don't love the police, but you know what? They might have been following orders. A go sign was given directly and loudly by Maxine Waters a few weeks ago. Remember this.
You see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
That we were fascist.
And they're doing what she said, am I right?
They're following orders.
Exactly what she said.
And look, they want us to apologize or back away from our support of the president. They are so frustrated that this president is succeeding. And they cannot reconcile with the fact that he's going to be the greatest president in modern American history and that the economy is booming. And you see them losing their mind, and they're resorting to these mob thuggish tactics.
Let me ask you something. What would the news coverage be like today if a couple of people in Trump hats, Make America Great Again hats, were hooting, yelling at people inside a restaurant, drove them out, and then dumped water on them?
Black people. Imagine if people in Trump hats were yelling at a young black woman, screaming at her because of her political affiliation. Imagine what the stories would be. It would be wall-to-wall coverage, and we would never hear the end of it. But somehow it's okay. And the argument that we're hearing is that it's not illegal to discriminate based off of political affiliation. Do you guys actually need a piece of legislation to tell you that this is wrong? To tell you that harassing people based on who they support politically is wrong? And that's where we're at in this country. We have to start considering rights for conservative thinkers.
But the thing is, look at Kirstjen Nielsen having dinner. Look at Sarah Huckabee Sanders having dinner. Stephen Miller, they're outside protesting at his apartment. This is getting closer and closer to going really bad. Steve Scalise still recovering from injuries after being shot because he happened to be playing second base, practicing on his Republican softball team.
And Rand Paul was mauled by his neighbor, political hate crime, one after the other. And we as conservatives, we reject the victim status. Instead, let's be victors and show up in huge force in November and not allow these radicals to regain control of Congress. Because where are the Democrats denouncing this? Silence.
Well, I wonder, how did they know y'all were in that restaurant, and how did they get such a big group so quickly?
They had 4 people that were eating tables down for us with Antifa decals on their bag that recognized us instantly. We thought, okay, they recognize us, no big deal. We didn't think they were going to send out a signal to tell people to come harass us. And I do want to say this. It doesn't matter what they do if they harass us in the streets. This is not going to change the effects of this administration. I've said this before many times on this couch. We saw the Rasmussen poll this last week. Black support support for Donald Trump has doubled since this time last year. And the reason is because people are starting to recognize the left, the Democrats, they are the party of hate.
And there's something about you articulating your message as a young African-American woman that really scares the left.
I've been tremendously effective. I've been showing the truth. I've been telling the truth. I've been telling them about real black history and showing that it was never the Republicans that were racist in this country. It was always the Democrats. The Democrats were behind the terrorism and the KKK. The Democrats were behind Antifa and the terrorism that is happening today.
It's a shame that y'all can't have breakfast in peace. So y'all stay safe. Have you thought about security now?
Yes.
Yeah, that's something we're obviously looking very close at. And it's a sad day in America that two 20-somethings can't eat quietly at a cafe and we're harassed for our support of the president and conservative values. But we're not going to back down. We're just getting started.
Can't have a plate of eggs and toast. That is a searing indictment of the political atmosphere right now. Charlie and Candace, thank you very much for joining us. Telling us your story.
Right over Charlie's left shoulder is Jillian, poised to give us other news.
That's right. Good morning. And we're following a story out of Tennessee. So let's go ahead and get you caught up on that. At least 20 people under arrest after protesting ICE outside of a private prison. The demonstrators unhappy that the core civic facility near Nashville has a contract with ICE. Some of those protesters blocking entrances to the prison so employees could not get inside. Core Civic says they play a, quote, limited role in America's immigration system. Let's take a look at this insane video out of Toronto. A tow truck's dash cam capturing the exact moment a car slams into a broken down truck on the side of a highway, spewing debris everywhere. And if you take a closer look, you can see the driver, look at that, of that broken down truck getting thrown into a guardrail. Incredibly, though, no one was seriously hurt. Police say the driver of the white car wasn't paying attention. An MS-13 leader accused of ordering horrific murders is complaining about life behind bars. Miguel Angel Carrera Diaz is reportedly asking a judge to improve his jail conditions, saying he is locked in a cell for 23 hours a day with limited phone access. Carrera Diaz, also known as the Reaper, is accused of directing gang operations in more than 4 states. He's pleaded not guilty. A woman just trying to be nice helps a man pay for his coffee at a convenience store, but she has absolutely no idea that he is a country music megastar. Watch this.
There was this man, and he didn't look like he had a lot of money, to be honest. He said, "I'm Keith." And I said, "You know, that's who you look like, Keith Urban." And he said, "Yes, I am Keith Urban." And I argued that he wasn't.
Well, Ruth Reed didn't believe him until his bodyguard stepped in to reassure her. The shocked teacher took a photo before he left for his concert in New Jersey. Reed says she treats a stranger by paying their bill at that store every week. Isn't that great?
That's
so cool.
fantastic.
I love it. He's like, "No, I'm a gazillionaire."
Right, yeah.
Like,
And so is my wife.
Your coffee.
That's great. I could buy
Sweet.
Australia.
Thank you, Jillian.
Thanks, Julian.
All right, coming up straight ahead.
The media losing it after President Trump says the 2016 Trump Tower meeting was about getting dirt on Hillary Clinton.
It's just further enmeshes him into not collusion, but a conspiracy.
All of this back and forth can basically have this president of the United States as an unindicted co-conspirator in this.
Is she a pundit or a reporter? Judge Napolitano says this is no bombshell. He's walking our direction. I'm so nervous.
That's right. And Todd Pyro is live in Michigan having breakfast with friends ahead of today's big primary there. We're going to catch up with some of the voters coming up. Morning, Todd.
Oh, man.
Hey, Judge.
Vote for me. I want the nomination for the...
The president outright admitting the Trump Tower meeting with the Russians was for dirt on Hillary Clinton.
This just further enmeshes him into not collusion, but a conspiracy.
All of this back and forth can basically have this president of the United States as an unindicted co-conspirator in this.
The media attacking the president for saying the 2016 Trump Tower meeting was meant to get information on Hillary Clinton.
But it's nothing new. Just last year, the president said the same exact thing.
That's right. Here with insight on why this is not a bombshell is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, when he was meeting with President Macron last year, he said essentially the same thing. Is it against the law for, if you're in politics, to try to dig up dirt on your opponent?
No, of course not. And everybody does it. And to that extent, the president is correct. But there are federal statutes that prohibit receiving something of value from a foreign national, foreign entity, or foreign government. So was the purpose of this meeting to receive something of value? That's something Bob Mueller's going to have to look at. But the president himself is clear of this. He didn't know about this until the New York Times revealed it a year after it happened. And there is no testimony, not even out of the mouth of Michael Cohen, as far as we can tell, to contradict the president on that.
Is there a crime here or conspiracy?
I don't know the answer to that, but unfortunately, a lot of these statutes are written to make it easy for the government to convict. So if there was an agreement to receive dirt on Hillary from the Russians, even if the dirt never came, if those who agreed, at least one of them, took some step in furtherance of the agreement, then there is the potential crime for conspiracy. But it doesn't appear that the president was among them.
But how would they even know that?
Well, that's for Mueller either to drop or to figure out from asking people that were involved.
And the fact that he hasn't talked to Don Jr., does that tell you the level of interest?
I don't know. Don Jr. has testified under oath before Congress. That is theoretically secret. My guess is that Bob Mueller has that, so he knows what Don Jr. told the Congress, and we don't know what he told them. My guess is that he's been consistent throughout, that his father didn't know about this until the news was broken by the New York Times a year later.
Right. Speaking of Bob Mueller, it sounds like the Trump team is getting closer to a decision. John Roberts just broke some of that information within the last couple of hours.
I am, my hat is off to Rudy Giuliani's patience, because it seems like every time there is an agreement, Bob Mueller wants to move, I'll use a Kilmeade metaphor, Bob Mueller wants to move the goalposts. I would basically say, Mr. President, we're not going to let you anywhere near Bob Mueller. He knows a lot more about this case. He's interviewed a lot more witnesses. When the government wants to talk to you, Mr. President, it's to help the government. It's not to help you. I think Rudy has been giving that very sound advice to the president. But the president, because he's said publicly so many times, I want to tell my story. Right. This is not the forum for him to tell his story. He should just tell the American people, I want to tell the story, but the lawyers have advised me it's not the place.
But if there's a subpoena.
There's a subpoena, let the court call it. The president may have a very good argument that Bob Mueller cannot force his testimony, but the courts will have to decide.
Mark Penn said Bill Clinton, they told him to testify, and he regrets supporting Bill Clinton testifying. He got impeached anyway.
Ryan, the testimony that Bill Clinton gave, which he agreed to do not only under oath, but in front of a camera, undermined him radically. I don't think Donald Trump's going to make that mistake, and I don't think Rudy Giuliani, who's very, very smart and experienced when it comes to these things, is going to let that happen.
All right. Judge,
thank you. All the best, guys.
Thank you, sir.
You too.
All right. Straight ahead, Hollywood wants to do permanent damage to President Trump's star on the Walk of Fame. What they just did overnight, they could remove it from that particular street.
If I was the president, I would remove it myself.
And Todd Pyro getting the pulse of the voters in Michigan ahead of today's big primary. We're going to hear from them coming up next.
He's Mr. Coffee.
The president outright admitting the Trump Tower meeting with the Russians was for dirt on Hillary Clinton.
This just further enmeshes him into not collusion, but a conspiracy.
All of this back and forth can basically have this president of the United States as an unindicted co-conspirator in this.
The media attacking the president for saying the 2016 Trump Tower meeting was meant to get information on Hillary Clinton.
But it's nothing new. Just last year, the president said the same exact thing.
That's right. Here with insight on why this is not a bombshell is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, when he was meeting with President Macron last year, he said essentially the same thing. Is it against the law for, if you're in politics, to try to dig up dirt on your opponent?
No, of course not. And everybody does it. And to that extent, the president is correct. But there are federal statutes that prohibit receiving something of value from a foreign national, foreign entity, or foreign government. So was the purpose of this meeting to receive something of value? That's something Bob Mueller's going to have to look at. But the president himself is clear of this. He didn't know about this until the New York Times revealed it a year after it happened. And there is no testimony, not even out of the mouth of Michael Cohen, as far as we can tell, to contradict the president on that.
Is there a crime here or conspiracy?
I don't know the answer to that, but unfortunately, a lot of these statutes are written to make it easy for the government to convict. So if there was an agreement to receive dirt on Hillary from the Russians, even if the dirt never came, if those who agreed, at least one of them, took some step in furtherance of the agreement, then there is the potential crime for conspiracy.
How would they
but
ever
it
know
doesn't
that?
appear that the president was among them.
But how would they even know that?
Well, that's for Mueller either to drop or to figure out from asking people that were involved.
And the fact that he hasn't talked to Don Jr., does that tell you the level of interest?
I don't know. Don Jr. has testified under oath before Congress. That is theoretically secret. My guess is that Bob Mueller has that, so he knows what Don Jr. told the Congress, and we don't know what he told them. My guess is that he's been consistent throughout, that his father didn't know about this until the news was broken by the New York Times a year later.